Welcome to the Board Game Network. I'm going to show you today how to play this game called Last Friday. It plays 2 to 6 players in 45 minutes per chapter or something is what it's saying. I think it plays faster than that, but it's got 4 chapters, and the intent is for you to play all 4 chapters back to back, but there are rules for just playing 1 chapter. One of you is a maniac. This is the game you saw on Friday the 13th or Halloween, those movies, those horror movies. One of you is the maniac and everybody else is camping at the lake. So each chapter has different goals, which is very unique, and this is a hidden movement game. The maniac is hiding his moves back behind this screen, and this is all one piece, which is very nice. So you don't have a loose screen that you accidentally tip over or something. And you just stick a piece of paper in there, and you'll notice that there's the starting circle, and then every 3 circles there's a blood stain. So every 3 circles the maniac shows up, and he may show up on this space, or see this arrow, he may show up on this space, depending on which chapter you're in. So on chapter 1, when he gets to turn 3, he's showing this number. When he gets to 6, he's showing this one. But in some chapters he shows up on the space he's on. So here's the setup for chapter 1. I'm not going to go through the setup for every chapter. They're all different. The players start on a white dot matching their color, and this is the player order here. And the maniac gets to set these welcome tokens out, these tents. Some of them have keys, and these keys match the color of a cabin. This is the yellow key. Here's the yellow cabin, which has a matching cabin that you put on there when you unlock that cabin. You put that down. And so the goal of chapter 1 is for the maniac to accumulate corpses, dead bodies. So he's going to run around and try to kill the campers. And the campers, of course, are going to try to make it to a cabin with the key to get in. Now, the yellow key works for whoever picked it up to come over here and unlock this cabin, and it also works for the yellow player. So once the cabin's unlocked, the yellow player can go into it whether they had the key or not. But those 2 people are the limit for the cabin. There's a boat token that somebody can get in there and go across, and they have to be on the white dot to start with before the turn. At the beginning of the turn they get on the boat, and then they get off at the other end. The campers, they move around on these white dots, the unnumbered white dots. The maniac, he moves around on the numbered spaces, which is what he's writing down on his screen. And you'll notice the numbered spaces are sometimes much farther than the round dots, like this one. 137 to 150 passes over 3 white dots. So in chapter 1, if you pass over a camper that's sitting on one of these white dots and you go from there to there, then you kill them and you put a corpse where they're at. And you also, anytime you show up on every 3rd turn here, you put one of these clue tokens out based on, it's adjacent to where you showed up with your black pawn. And you never have more than 1 token in a space, so if you would normally put it in a specific space and there's already a token there, you put it in an adjacent space. And each chapter only lasts 15 rounds, so once you get done with the 15th round, the chapter's over. So the maniac gets to set these welcome tokens out and place the keys wherever he wants to. Great strategy would be either to put, here's the red cabin, put the red key over here, or to put all of the keys together, and so the maniac can head over that way because he knows that the campers have to go that direction. Now once the setup is done, the campers are already set up. They get to go first, the red one goes, and then down to the brown one, and then the black one gets to go, and he gets to place it wherever he wants to on one of these spaces around the edge that has the blood stain. So, and then he just writes that in his 0 space here, and then takes his first turn in the 1 space and can head whichever direction he wants to head. The campers, they can move 1 or 2 spaces on the white dots, and so this numbered dot does not count as a space for them. So to go from this dot to this dot, that's 1 space and then another space. And when you start, you have all of these. There's 3 yellow people, 3 red, 3 of each color, and you get to pick one of those 3 for your player. And you always play with 5 campers, no matter how many players are playing the game. So just divvy them up. So if you're playing with less players, you still play with 5 campers. And each of them have some ability. This one says, Daphne says she can place a bear token at a distance of 2 white dots instead of 1. So instead of placing it adjacent to her, she can place it 2 dots away. And each of these have a highlighted token. These are clue tokens, so you start with one of those, whichever one is highlighted. And whenever you're picking up clue tokens, these tokens here that the maniac is leaving around the camp as he shows up, you can come over there and you look at them and you can choose to pick them up or not, but you can never have more than 1 of each clue token. And you'd put it on your character there. The shovel, by the way, is to bury corpses. Some of these welcome tokens are corpses. There they are right there. And if you're over by a corpse and you have a shovel, you want to bury the corpse, because at the end of the chapter you take the number of surviving campers and subtract the number of corpses, and the maniac gets a number of maniac tokens that benefit him based on that difference. And he starts with 4 of these maniac tokens at the beginning of the first chapter. If you subtract and the number is negative, then the campers actually get to look at clue tokens around the board based on that difference. So, and those things stay out between chapters. So here's the different tokens here. You've got a lantern, and that lantern, when it gets placed out here, can see adjacent spaces. So if the maniac ever runs through the lit spaces, he has to show himself. The bear trap does not affect the campers, but they can place it, and whenever the maniac, if he goes through that space, he has to pick up the bear trap and then he would reveal himself. The shovel buries corpses. The tennis shoes gives you an extra space. The ear gives you better hearing, so when you play that clue token, and these are one-time use, you play them when you're done with them. Hearing, the maniac has to show himself if he's adjacent to you. So this is very similar to like a Scotland Yard type hidden placement game, except for you don't spend near as much time debating what the best play is. You run for the keys and you run for the cabin and try to get out. And so chapter 1 is the maniac trying to kill as many campers as he can. And this screen, by the way, is a great screen. It shows a mini version of the board with all the numbers here. And it's got a hole in here so you can look through and see where everything's at and try to hide where you're looking. Chapter 1, if the maniac passes over a camper, the camper gets killed. Chapter 2, it becomes daylight out, and the maniac, if the maniac or the campers pass over each other, then the maniac gets killed. So they're actually going after the maniac in chapter 2, so there's a flip-flop on who's chasing who in chapter 2. Chapter 3, if the maniac passes over a character, then he kills the camper. He kills the camper. What happened is at the end of chapter 2, whoever killed the maniac or was closest to the maniac becomes what's called the predestined. And so the maniac is chasing the predestined for chapter 3. And so everybody else's goal is to stop that from happening. If that means sacrificing yourself, then that's what happens. And so the predestined replaces their color with a white pawn. And so the goal is for the maniac to pass over the white pawn and kill the white pawn. That's chapter 3's goal. Chapter 4 goal is for the chapter 4 goal is once chapter 3 where the maniac is chasing the predestined, then chapter 4 the predestined chases the maniac. And so the maniac becomes revealed anytime a player passes over the maniac, he becomes revealed. And so chapter 4, the predestined is trying to kill the maniac, and so it doesn't really, everybody else is trying to help that along. So once again, this game is called Last Friday, and it's a very quick play type game. It's not sit around and strategize a lot. Every time the maniac moves, he needs to make sure he's moving his round marker here to show when he shows up on these blood splotches, and you get to round 15 and the chapter's over. So we just played this on Thursday, had a great time doing that. It's fun. The back and forth is very fun. Whereas like Scotland Yard, there's one Mr. X, one bad guy, and the police are trying to catch him, and his goal is just to get away. This one, the maniac's trying to go after the campers as many as he can get, and then immediately chapter 2, and everybody starts at where they left off, including the maniac. He's just standing out in the open, and it becomes daylight, and everybody starts chasing him. And the back and forth between chapters and the way the rules change subtly between chapters, you have to look at the setup between chapters and how the game is modified, but these are still going to be the basic core rules throughout all 4 chapters. So I had a great time playing this. If I didn't say it, the maniac can actually swim across the lake 1 time per chapter. And so that is the game called Last Friday. If you want to be a maniac and chase others or have them chase you, this is the game. Make sure you tune into all of our videos here at the Board Game Network.